board and also our guests tonight to our March meeting of the Gilbert County Animal Advisory Board. I've got just a couple of comments before we start, and then we'll get right in the agenda. I note that no one has signed up for public comments, and so there won't be any at the beginning or the end of the meeting. But since we last met, we had an opportunity to meet with the people who support the commissions and boards, and one of the things we learned was that the county commissioners have moved towards comments only at the beginning of the meeting. Generally limited to 2 minutes and a 10-minute total. We're going to move to that, and tonight's the first night for that. So be aware, if you do have anything to bring before us, you need to do it at the beginning of the meeting, because we won't have comments at the end. The second thing is just to remind you, you're always welcome, and this is special to the citizens that are here. You're always welcome to contact any of us at any time, whether it be after the meeting or during the course of the month. And all of our information is available, our access is available on the website. So we want to be accessible. We also want to have efficient meetings. So I urge you to, if you have anything you particularly have on your mind, we always want to engage in respectful dialogue going in both directions about what's going on. We'll be as transparent as we possibly can be. And with that, I'd like to call for approval of the minutes of the February meeting. I personally do have a change to those minutes. I want to insert, correct some things that are in the minutes with regard to the comments that I made, and I'll give those to the secretary of the board, to Josie, for incorporation. Are there any other additions or corrections?
Carl, in section C2, we're just trying clarification on the calendar. And I think if we just insert the word April after March 14th, then it'll make sense.
Right, yeah.
Is that one of your corrections that you were gonna make?
No, but it's one that needs to be made. It's got to do, it was confusing on our schedule, and specifically when the ECAC visit was gonna be, the shelter visit was gonna be held, which is in fact April. And would you make that correction, Josie? Because of that, we did put out a calendar for the public and for everyone else to make sure that everyone knew when the meetings were going to be held this year. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because our next meeting will be held at the shelter. It won't be a business meeting, but the public is encouraged to join us, those that are here that want to walk through. We did this last year. I thought it was informative and worth all of our time to do that. I think the people that came, both those on the board and others as well, did also. And so we welcome you all at our regular meeting in April, except it will be at the animal shelter.
Yeah, and also with the date, sorry, Carl. On the calendar, it's supposed to be September 12th, not September 13th.
So we'll get those corrected. We have put out the official schedule now. I think we all have that. And thanks for sending that email. I just happened to be away at the time.
Yeah, that's okay.
So.
Carl, can I make a comment about the minutes before we approve them?
Sure.
So, Dr. Ferris's name is spelled wrong in one place, and they got that. And I actually just had a question. This is like on the beginning of the last page of the minutes, very top after C. I don't even know what that's referring to. 16, repentance. It sounds like they're doing a confession. What it meant.
If you look at your agenda,
Yeah.
on your agenda, it has A, B, C, D, Roman numerals and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Okay, C on your agenda was Susie's fund,
yeah.
so it just reads it, in all your minutes, it says that. It doesn't
Okay, no,
say
I know that. I
Susie.
just didn't know what the words like.
Repentant.
Repentance.
Oh, I meant to put recipients.
Gotcha, okay. I was thinking that people going to confession or something.
That's what it's supposed to be,
Okay,
recipients.
recipients, okay, that makes, and $84,000.
There's a balance in the fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Let me get this. All right, with the changes, is there a motion to approve? Second? All in favor? Motions are adopted. The minutes are adopted. They'll be modified as noted and then be properly posted. Okay, the next is our Community CAD initiative, and Bev, this is your item. talk a little bit about what's going on there, but also introduce Dr. Ferris.
Sure, and is it also appropriate to introduce some members of the audience in terms of their role in the Community Cat project?
Sure.
Okay, all right, so.
Which, by the way, is not an official, that particular group
That's a
is not an
separate-
official group of this committee, but it's a separate group that's assisting as we try to move forward on our cat issue, which we are all aware of.
Yes. So Dr. Ferris is sitting over there near Josie. She is, she's out to visit with us from NC State. That school, she heads up the mobile spay and neuter unit there, and I was motivated to get in touch with her after speaking with Layla Warren from Forsyth Humane Solution, who partnered with Dr. Ferris and students at NC State to do some TNR work out in Forsyth County. So she's going to speak to us a little bit tonight about TNR, and perhaps also take questions from us. I mean, I'll let her guide that part. But there are some people in the audience I'd like to introduce if people don't know them. So we have Sally Atwood right here in front, Mindy Busick from FCAP, who do FCAP, Feral Cat Assistance Program here in Guilford County.
If you wouldn't mind, would you stand up and introduce yourself, just so we can
sorry about that.
see you.
Mindy has also started coming into the shelter to help us socialize some feral cats to make them suitable to go into adoption, and she's a cat whisperer, so it's
No.
Regina's with FCAP,
and Regina's with FCAP and also with Roar.
Guilford
right?
College.
And Jorge may be speaking about that later on, about the interns that are gonna be coming into work in the shelter. Yes, part of the Saturday training, and I'm gonna
Yes.
be a mentor volunteer for Leah.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, and
You
Regina
gonna
does a
walk
lot
cats?
with.
You walking cat?
No,
Herding them, walking them?
No, not doing that.
You're hurting us.
Heard 'em, yeah.
No.
We got two farm cats.
Let's make sure we spell that right, it's herding.
Yeah,
not
herding.
hurting.
Yes. Sarah Starnes in the back. She's going to be helping out the shelter. She is a cat person as well, and helping out with some social media work.
Ann Stringfield. And Ann.
Anne is, yes, Anne is a regular
Numbers.
attender. Thank
About
you, Anne.
numbers today.
Yes. And then, let's see, Leah, I want to introduce Leah. I actually just met Leah myself in the past couple of weeks. Leah Trammell. She is a powerhouse. She tracks, she does TNR. She actually, to my knowledge, is not really involved in feeding any colonies, but she goes out and helps mostly people who live in areas where there are a lot of cats that they have let kind of get out of control. And she helps track, and she's been hauling many, many cats into Planned Parenthood just in the past week or so. And it's funny how many people come into the shelter and say, if I won the lottery, I'd adopt all the animals here at the shelter and build a rescue, farm. And I say, if I won the lottery, I'd give all my money to Leah. She is just trapping like crazy and really controlling the cat population. So thank you for coming, Leah. Leah has sort of helped me realize, and in speaking with Jorge, that really one of the most critical needs that we face in the community right now is funding for TNR. Leah is capable of bringing in 10 cats a day to get spayed or neutered at a clinic. That comes close to $500 right there for those 10 cats. So that is something that we are kind of continually on the lookout for funding. And let's see, and then there are, Jennifer Mooney here, she attends our meetings. She's also regularly involved in the community cat world as well.
Well, if I might, first welcome and thank you all for all you're doing there. It is very clear, while we have a lot of work to do with the canine population, the challenge is even greater with the feline population. We reviewed last month our numbers. Our euthanasia rate on dogs is at 11%, but on cats is at 27%. And so we certainly want to do all we can to bring that down, and that means controlling in large measure these feral colonies and so forth, and using some of the latest thinking to help us do that. So both are priorities. I think the Gate, we'll talk more in a little bit. Lisa's going to talk about what's going on with the Gate City Pet Project and some of the other initiatives on the canine side. They work on both sides, but they especially will help us on the canine side, so I don't want to suggest we're shorting the feline people in that. But the issue with the community cats is really huge. The good news, I guess, is as I looked at different numbers in different counties, we're better, if you want to call it that, than several large counties, but we're not where we need to be on cats for
Right,
sure, or dogs, but especially cats, and so that's something, so
We're making
appreciate that
progress.
work. So
And,
I'm sorry, pardon the interruption.
I just, actually, one last thing to say, our next community cat meeting, you know, in addition to hopefully having some good news about funding availability, we'll also, I sent out a link to the attendees that has, it actually is a single link that has the, you can click on links within it, ordinances for all the cities and counties within North Carolina and the ordinances. So we're going to be doing our homework and looking to see whether there's language that we might be able to, use from other counties that are making progress with TNR to inform, our ordinance here in Guilford County. So that's kind of on the agenda that we'll be working on, for our next meeting. Okay, so I think that's all that I have to say at the moment. Thank you for coming out to meet Dr. Ferris. I had put that in an email that you'd be coming tonight.
Well, it's great to see all of you this evening, and it's really exciting that you all made such great progress in your county. I know that, 27% is not where you wanna be with cats, and I applaud you for, now getting into the parts that are, it gets harder. The lower the percentage, the harder it is to continue to drop it. That doesn't mean it's not worth trying, and there's some ways to get there sooner than later. That some of the other counties have had success in other places around the country. The one thing that I think is really exciting about your area that other areas don't share is that you have a very robust spay-neuter community. You don't just have one mobile hospital option. You have many options. You have FCAP. You have a lot of resources, and as you say, it's money. And there are ways to get there, and there are ways to use the money really wisely. We're really fortunate in the vet school to have a mobile hospital where we are fully supported to go out and do spay-neuter feral cats or community cats around the state, partnering with local veterinarians and everything from animal control to local community groups that are working on trying to get a handle on their community cats. And there's lots of different strategies that people are using. The probably least successful strategy is relying on veterinary students to be able to do enough spays and neuters to make a difference. We think it's a pretty good day if we get 35 or 40 cats done with our vet students. They may be slow because they're just getting started, but they produce really, really, really high quality surgeries. I would be proud to have any of these surgeries leave with any one of an owned animal. We don't cut corners on pain management or anything else, surgical procedures. The cats get the best care possible. That being said, of course, we can't keep them and forever to monitor them, so we have to use long-acting pain medications and things that maybe an owner at home would be able to administer more medications, but we have long-acting antibiotics. We have a lot of things to offer. What we really do, I think, most successfully is train a lot of veterinary students to be comfortable with working with cats that are not friendly, that come in traps, and how to safely work with these cats in their practices. And it's really exciting that many of our graduates are actually going out in their communities, in their practices, even if they're not doing it full time, they're actually doing feral cats in their practice. And 10 or 15 years ago even, this might have been unheard of. People weren't comfortable with it. They didn't know how to handle it. Their technicians were afraid of these cats. And now that we have the proper equipment and the tools, in some ways they're faster and easier than maybe an anxious owned cat that doesn't come in protective equipment.